Uh-oh, yeah. Compare it to like a base offering, like where we start with this and then how we get to this. Hold that in a couple more millimeters to center, then that butterfly joint has a greater range to come forward in. If you look at the center line, his arm is going over center. So that's a great range of motion already on this figure. The bottom joint could have tilted back even further. If you're gonna say maximum series and charge $50, I'm putting this thing through the ringer. What's up, guys? It's about to get maximum in here because I found one. I found the new Marvel Legends Maximum Spider-Man. This has been a hot topic over the last months, weeks, ever since Hasbro announced it. I don't know exactly when they announced it, but it's fairly recent. And they announced it, and then they started, trickling out. People have been doing reviews, and it's something that I wasn't planning on getting as a fan. Like, I love Spider-Man. I've worked on a bunch of Spider-Man Marvel Legends. If you saw one of our older videos where I went through all my Marvel Legends, go check that one out. It's a great video. But, I didn't really feel the need to get this one. I have Spider-Mans in my collection, but because it's so polarizing, this item, and it's kind of divided the fandom in a way, I figured it might be a good idea to actually get it and see and maybe kind of give, my thoughts on it. So, I did a little tease on social media about this item, and it seems like people wanted to see me review it. So I was able to find one, and I believe one of the fans of Valaverse sent me a message and said, hey, if you're still looking for the Maximum Spider-Man, it's on Best Buy, and I was able to get one and pick it up at my local Best Buy, and it was $50. Now, I'm gonna go through everything about this figure. I'm gonna go through, the articulation, the deco, the accessories, and of course, the price. So, and I'm strictly giving my opinion as one, a toy fan, and two, a product developer. So toy designer, I own my own toy company. So I'm gonna kind of give my thoughts on where it went one way or the other way, or what I like about it or don't like about it. Now look, I don't know what is gonna happen when I review this. I might absolutely love this figure. I might hate it. I might be in the middle somewhere. I've only seen a couple review videos that people put out, and there's a lot of positive things to say about it, but again, that main point of contention is the price. So once I get through it all at the end, I'm gonna give my thoughts on the price, price value, perceived value, all sorts of things, because I've got another Marvel Legends over here just to kind of compare it to like a base offering, like where we start with this and then how we get to this. So let me get into this guy and see how maximum it really is. It looks great. Like it's, and a lot of people were kind of maybe comparing it to like an import, like a Mafex or Mafex, however you want to say it. Like this is, kind of the way they look. They got a ton of accessories. Those figures are also $80 to $120. I don't know if that's what Hasbro was trying to do. I mean, it could have been a thing where I've talked about it when I did the 12-inch Legends. We were doing 12-inch Legends as a way to grab a piece of that high-end 12-inch Hot Toys sideshow market, but we didn't do that. We dumbed it down, and it dumbed it down even further after we got into it, where they were supposed to be like a $75 figure. They ended up being $50, but we were trying to do that. Now, I don't know, maybe Hasbro was saying, hey, we should get try to get some of those higher end, collectors that do imports. But I also think that they were trying to make something that offered you a bit more. Because, we know, standard Legends, we're seeing it kind of across almost all Hasbro brands. We even see it on a brand that doesn't have a royalty like G.I. Joe Classified. They're coming with less. Now, some in a wave, you'll see a wave of figures where one figure will be chock full of stuff, and then one figure will have like a wrench. And I think that was like CoverGirl or something like that. But same thing with Star Wars Black Series and Marvel Legends. Sometimes you'll get some hands, maybe an extra head, but this is Wolverine. He's an A-lister. He's gonna sell, so they're gonna pack him full of stuff because they know they're gonna sell more units of this. The figures that, I don't want to call them peg warmers, but the ones that don't sell as high or haven't met as many units as this one, they're going to have less stuff. So, you know, I think they wanted to just give you another price point offering. Like, hey, here's what we do at $24 or $25. Here's what we do at $50. But again, I don't know what their thought process was. I can only just speculate. But again, here he is. As you can see, he comes with a ton of stuff. I don't know if that ton of stuff is going to be $50, but we'll see. The packaging looks really good. I mean, you know, Hasbro does amazing packaging. You know, packaging is one of those things, I've said it before in my videos, I care more about the product than I do about the packaging because I'm going to toss the packaging or I'll, you know, save it to pack this guy back up. But to me, the money should be spent on the product. So, but it's good. It's, you know, you know, the Maximum is really nice. Like it's in your face, which it should be. You know, they've got Spidey all over the packaging in his poses. What I don't like is, and it's tough because when you're doing packaging, you don't have a production sample ready. You have a resin paint master or you do it digitally. I'm not a fan of the digital renders. Now, granted, it is using the 3D sculpt files to do the digital render, but there's stuff that, for instance, if you look at, you know, the web here on the back of the package, it looks like super, super clear, like glass, whereas, you know, it's more opaque in the actual, you know, item. You know, the digital renders can be a little deceiving in a way. You know, I get it. You know, you're pressed for time. And again, if you had a painted resin sample and you start moving him in all these positions, that paint's going to rub and it's going to flake off, and it's, you know, so it's a double-edged sword. It's like, all right, well, what do you do? You know, I use hand-painted samples on Action Force packages, but I'm not, you know, I've definitely used digital renders on the Legend of the White Dragon item, but I was never crazy about it. To me, I always see them and I'm like, that's not the product. Whereas I feel like a hand-painted sample is closer to the product than a digital render. But, you know, it's you know, fine. You know, it's again, I'm 50-50 on it, but really, really nice packaging. It's robust and stuff. Like it's a really good box. So now it's time to see what's inside. I haven't been this excited to like review a figure in a bit, especially like a Marvel Legend, just because, you know, it's like, yeah, I buy some Marvel Legends. I worked on Legends, but it's not, you know, I'm not like reviewing a ton of Legends stuff. So, all right. That over there. All right, we got a ton of stuff, multiple layers of the tray here. Oh, that's nice. Okay. All right. Let's see what this guy is all about. I'm just going to pull everything out and then we'll get into it all. All right. I've got him out. I've got his pile of accessories. And yeah, so we'll go through the figure first, the most important part. And we'll see. Now, this is supposed to be like the best articulated Legend, best deco. Like this is, you call it your Maximum series. This should be your best offering. And I know, like, again, it's something, you know, this figure, you know, divided the community a bit. And, you know, my good buddy Ryan Ting from Hasbro, I think he came out and put his foot in his mouth a little bit and said, like, you know, because people were asking, like, well, what makes this Maximum? Like, what are we getting with this offering that's so much different than this offering? And he kind of, you know, he said something like, you know, the plastic's the same. Like, you know, it's the same as a regular Legend. And it's like, okay, well, me as an action figure, you know, producer with a toy company, I know what he was getting at. But it's like, yeah, like, of course the plastic is the same. It's PVC, it's ABS, it's the same stuff. It's more of what extra is with this item to make it $50. So, but again, it's like, you know, I feel like some people kind of ribbed around a little bit. It wasn't as bad as, you know, top, middle, and bottom. But, you know, what are you going to do? So he's going to have kind of the same articulation as a Legend. I know that they did some things different to make his articulation, like, have greater range. But, Overall, it's the same. It's pinless joints. I mean, they're nice and snug, which is good. So his, his double elbows are very nice. Standard stuff, bicep swivel. Shoulders are the same. What I did like about this, and I do this on the figures I've worked on in the past, but I've noticed it's kind of a trend with new stuff, is people don't cut in like far enough into the chest of the figures. Like the butterfly joint, like you can't just have the butterfly joint tucked in. You still need to get past the, your chest here. So when I did the UFC line, I pulled that in a couple more millimeters to center, because then that butterfly joint has a greater range to come forward in. Now I know on like Savage Crucible, they didn't do that. The chest ends here, but their butterfly joint kind of comes out from the back. So, your arm isn't cutting across the chest. It's coming like swiveling out. Now it still gives them a two-handed sword pose, but for me, I like, especially with Action Force, when you're two-handing a accessory, you want to have that range here. And it's just a matter of preference, what people do. I like that they actually cut in further on the chest, because when you bring that arm in, it's going all the way across. Now, if you look, like he's past center. If you look at the center line, his arm is going over center. So that's a great range of motion already on this figure. So, you do two hands, like, look at that. Like, even, I think we have a great range on Action Force. I don't even know if our figures cross hands like that. I think this is one of the first regular figures, like I'm saying regular, like not import, like Mafex or SH Figure Arts, that has this greater range of motion in the chest. And also, he's not wearing a tactical vest or any sort of armor or anything like that. It's easy with Spider-Man because he's spindly and he just has a spandex outfit. But this right here is already like A+ articulation. So I think that's great. He goes back really far, which is nice, because, if you're doing like, Squirrel Suit Spider-Man, you can go back all the way. So that's really nice. Standard, it's the same articulation in the torso that they've been doing on their figures. They do the ab crunch and the ball rocker. Now the neck, again, they're doing the double neck, and he looks up. It's fine. I think they didn't. So you could see they could have cored out a little bit more here on the back of the neck, because while his head goes back all the way, like, you could have gotten more range if you cored out the bottom, because then the bottom joint could have tilted back even further. So like right now you get it a little bit in the front. I think it's good. Like, it's a good range of motion, but he's getting the most range of motion from the top joint, not so much the secondary joint at the the shoulders, which that could have been improved a little bit. But it's nitpicky stuff. It's fine. He still looks up really well. The legs, does he have drop? He does have drop down hips. Okay, so a little snug, but that's good because it's a figure right off a package. All right, so drop down hips, drop down very nice. So you can get like the really like that's good. I know it's such a funny, egregious shot, but I think it's good. It's good range of motion in the hips. Not bad, not bad. He goes out all the way. Oh, does he not? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Yeah. Okay. So this is where, again, it's going to be me nitpicking. But again, this is me as if I'm testing this sample, I'm seeing this is maximum. So that means maximum range of motion. My Action Force guys with tactical clothing on can do a full split. He cannot do a full split. He cannot. And I would think that Spider-Man, if anyone, should do a split more than, say, Steel Brigade. Because they didn't, I'm trying to show you so you can see. If you look into the cavity here, they could have pulled it out a bit more so that you get the split, but it stopped. So it doesn't go all the way. So that's not maximum, guys. That's not maximum. Now again, it's people, well, when are you going to put Spider-Man in a split? Listen, I get it, but I'm just saying, like, if you're going to say maximum series and charge $50, I'm putting this thing through the ringer. And that's something where he didn't do. Again, A+ on the butterfly joints, you know, a B+ on the neck, but it's like, you could have did a little more here. I mean, he's got thigh swivel, double knees as usual. Like, all this stuff is standard, you know. He's got, you know, the calf break at his color, you know, the colorways on his suit. You always want to make that an articulation point if you're, you know, changing colors. Ankle rocker, toe joints. Guy like Spider-Man should have toe joints. I'm not the hugest fan of them. I feel like they get very loose over time, but you know, it's kind of something that if he's, you know, on a wall or something, you know, you want to get him with that toe articulation. So toe articulation on Spider-Man is definitely needed. You know, hands, it's all standard stuff. Because he has the removable forearms, like that, you know, it gives you an articulation break, which is nice. But overall, the figure's really good. I know there were some QC issues with the tampo on heads that I saw online, but mine is good. Yeah, mine's really good. What I would have liked to have seen, they kind of put a slight matte finish on him. He's still a little glossy. Like he still looks a bit glossy. You know, Spider-Man's in a leotard, and it should be more of a matte finish. But that's like super nitpicky. I will admit that. That's not necessary. All the deco lines on his webs are perfect on mine. Now they did more web lines on this figure than they have in past figures. Like, you used to have to space them out, or if you do them recessed, like on movie figures or raised. This is, the deck on mine is actually really, really good. Yeah, I guess they went with like the McFarlane Bagley style head for this figure. But yeah, his colors are great. Figure overall, like, figure's really, really nice. Again, you can't do a split, but it's fine. I mean, I like this. We can do, hold on. So you can have fun with this figure because he has such good range in his butterfly. You can give him the Hulk Hogan like pose, which is nice. Yeah, figure's really good. Figure's very, very good. So now we have to get into what he comes with. Now he does come with an alternate head. Now I'm trying to, oh, it's one eye. All right, because I was looking at the package. It's like, you know, he's got, now I'm dropping it. He's got one eye kind of closed more than the other. So it's just kind of giving him like that Deadpool sort of facial expression. Which, for this Spider-Man, I would have rather seen like, I don't think that's enough of a change on the eyes here. I would have liked to have seen him come with like different artist era heads. I know they're gonna be like, well, they did the Ramita figure and they did this figure and they did this figure. I get it, but this is Maximum. You're gonna give me, you know, more stuff. So to me, like, this head is kind of a waste because I'm like, that eye isn't enough. If anything, like, you got a Peter Parker head, which I'll get into in a second. Give me the classic half face Peter Parker, half Spider-Man that they did in the comics. Now, I don't know, my, you know, knowledge of every single legend is not as good as, you know, others. So I don't know if they've done that head previously. Maybe they have, but I'm not sure. I would have liked to have just seen something different. Maybe you could have did a nice throwback to the original Spider-Man classics and given him the battle damage head, because they did a figure that had a battle damage head. You could have done something like that. Again, it's maximum. Like, this is max. This should be like your best offering. This should be the only Spider-Man you ever need. So, but as far as the figure goes, figure is great. I don't need this head. I don't think it's has a big enough differentiation to the rest, to the standard head. But again, some people might be like, hey, I love it, and that's cool. I am not crazy about it. So let's get into the Peter Parker head. Actually, I'll put it on so we can see. Head change is nice and easy. All right, so there is Peter Parker. So nice inkjet printing on the face. I'm not crazy about the design of the hair. It makes him look like he's got like it's just weird looking because he's got the curls in the front, like, from the comics, but he almost looks like he's got like a pompadour. He's got like this weird 50s style hair. I don't know. There's something just off about that hair that I'm not crazy about. But again, it doesn't detract from the price. It's just more of what my preference is, and I'm just not crazy about the hair. But it is very, very nice inkjet printing. Hasbro does some of the best inkjet printing on their faces. I will definitely give them that. The stuff on the classified line is really well done. Stuff on Black Series is really well done. And this looks good. Yeah, because there's nice shading that gives him, depth. His eyes look great. So, nice job. And again, I like that. Well, I don't like the hair. I like that the hair is a separate molded piece. Like, this is soft PVC, and it's glued onto the head. I like that because then you don't have to worry about paint rub and everything like that. And then you don't have to worry about undercuts. Like, some of these curls are undercuts on the mold. You don't have to worry about that because this is its own separate part, which, if you're going to do hair, you kind of want hair to be a separate part in most cases. I've done Action Force figures where the hair and the head was all the same part, but I've done it where the hair was separate. I tend to like it better when the hair is separate. So, I'm trying to think if his head is sitting too high on the neck. It's in all the way, but it might be sitting like a millimeter or two too high. The masthead was fine. Peter Parker head might be slightly high. That's such a common issue when you're creating action figures. Like, every time I get test shots or even EP samples, if a figure comes with multiple heads, one head will always be off from the other for some reason. There's always going to be adjustments made. Even when I was at Hasbro, head height was always a comment that was made very, very early on when you get your samples. So, but it just looks a little high to me. So I don't know if that's, it could just be a me thing, but I think it's slightly high. All right. So he comes with a ton of hands. He's got, let's go through his non-shooting hands. He's got, all right. So he's got a thwip hand. He's got almost like a slightly altered thwip hand. He's got his wall crawling hands, and he's got C-grip hands. So a lot of hands, which Legends don't normally come with. But we've gotten these hands with Spider-Man Legends in the past. But these have tighter web lines, so it's good that they have all these. But it's nice. Extra hands are always nice. The one cool thing that this comes with is the thwip hands with web fluid coming out of them, which is always really nice. And I love that they varied them up. Like, this is, a little bit coming out, here's more of a spread shot. Like, that's really, really cool. I think these are probably one of the best parts of this item are these thwip hands, because it just gives you like that like comic cinematic feel to it. It's like What do you want to see Spider-Man do? I want to see him shooting webs, and that's what we get. So those are great pieces. Again, I don't know every single offering that they've done for Spider-Man, so I don't know if these kind of accessories have been offered before, and it's just that they compiled it into one offering. Now I know this is all new tooling, so I don't want to make it seem like, oh, they're reusing. These are, from what I understand, this is brand new tooling. Now the Hulk, that's a different story. We'll get into that one when I actually get a Hulk, because you call it Maximum, you don't reuse, especially reuse visible pins. Spider-Man is all new though. All right, so he's got a bunch of web accessories. He's got this cool, net snare web accessory. Great detail on it. He's got these two softer PVC web accessories. So when he's standing and shooting, it makes it look like he's shooting that. Spider-Man shooting webs. That's cool. Now I'm wondering, does this? All right, so this has a hole also. That's great. This is a great accessory. I like that look of web accessory. These stretchy ones are just made to go into his C-grip hands. I mean, they don't do much. I mean, I guess you can sort of hang him and then he's hanging, which is cool. But yeah, these are what they are. Yeah, I don't know. I guess you could have two of them, because then he can hold on and you can have him outstretched, which is fun. And then, all right, so now he's got his web shield. I always thought the web shield was such a cool thing in the comics. He's almost like a Green Lantern in a way, where Green Lantern can kind of create anything, whereas Spider-Man's like, yeah, well, I can create anything, almost anything I want out of webs. He's made backpacks and web shields. So there you go. That's a nice web shield. What it is missing, and I did touch on a backpack, is Peter Parker always had he had his backpack, and that's where he kept his camera. And when he was Peter, he kept his costume in there. But then when he turned into Spider-Man, he kind of threw his street clothes in there and then stashed his backpack. I would have liked a backpack for him. I remember I think it was the first Andrew Garfield Amazing Spider-Man, when it wasn't Legends, but they had done a figure that was Legends style for that movie. And that figure came with a backpack, and you could put his skateboard in it. That would have been a nice touch. It's Maximum. And I'm going to keep saying that, because it's like, you're going to call something Maximum, you're going to charge $50 for it, you got to be held accountable. So I'm just saying, should have had, a backpack. The last accessory he comes with, which is very, very cool. I thought this was a great inclusion in this, is his Spider Sense tingling accessory. That's very cool, because that's so iconic in the comics of him doing that. And it's like, you did a nice clear piece. It fits on his head well. It's cool. Very, very cool. I like stuff that harkens back to the comics. It's like, that's the stuff that paved the way. Now, you got to include that stuff. I did just notice something about the figure. I said the figure was amazing, and it is. But, see, this is where, again, the designer working on this, he's been there for 15, 20 years. This is stuff you should pick up on. All right. So when you're molding a piece, it's 2-part molds. And then they have slides that go in. But the mold itself is 2 parts. And where that seam is, sometimes you'll get lines on plastic where the mold break is. You usually don't want those in bad spots. You don't want them coming down the center of the face. You want them on the sides, so they kind of come down through the ear. You don't want them in straight on areas of the figure. However, if you look on the thighs, there are visible mold break lines right on the very front. Now, I have to remember how my Action Force figures are done, because when you're doing the double injection molding with the pinless, I don't know if the seam can be down the side. I have to look how it's done on my figures, but I can tell you right now, we don't have visible lines. Now, if there ever is a visible line, you can ask the factory to clean that up, and they will adjust the mold and get rid of that line so that it's like seamless. On a $50 figure, I shouldn't be seeing that line. 100% I shouldn't be seeing that line. So I have to look really close to see it on his bicep. It's like so minimal though. The ones on the front are very visible, and that's not okay. That shouldn't be there. You definitely shouldn't have that. Because yeah, it's all I can see now. Because you don't have them on the top of the thigh, you have them right down the middle of the big part of the thigh. That's stuff you can catch. That's stuff you can catch. Those are comments you can make. Yeah, I don't, hold on. Yeah, so my Action Force Pandora, I can see very, like a slight hint, but you don't see the mold line the way you see it on Spider-Man. So, again, that's stuff that you can make that comment. You can address that. That's not just like, well, no, that's the mold break. Like, that's not acceptable, especially on a $50 figure. All right. So I went through all of his accessories. I think the figure is great. I really do. I think this is, like, if I were buying a ton of Marvel Legends, this would probably be the only Spider-Man I might need. Like, it is really good. It gets, you know, almost all the poses except full splits, but this figure is great. Like, for a standard Marvel Legends figure, this figure is great. Now, I say standard because Maximum doesn't really, like, yeah, it may change the figure, like it's got slightly more articulation, but a lot of this is the same as what you get in regular Legends. So you have to kind of keep it to a standard like this, you know? It's kind of the same. I think the figure, if I had to, like, rate the figure, I'd say it's a 9.5 out of 10. It's that good. The accessories, I mean, I don't know if I can even give a grade to the accessories because, like, the accessories they did are great. However, I wanted different accessories. You know, and I think some other people feel the same way, as some of these accessories were just not needed, or, you know, I should add more. Again, the head with the half closed eye, just it's not much different than this one. I would have wanted a beat up head, because you give me Peter Parker, give me beat up, you know, a beat up battle damage mask, half open Peter Parker head. That's what you could have done. So now that we've established that the figure is great, we have to establish if it's worth $50. That's where, like, everyone was so torn. People were like, $50? Like, for a Legend? Like, I don't know. Like, then there are people who are like, no, $50, you know, great price. Like, now, people are going to say, well, it's sold out on pre-order. Okay, but Hasbro doesn't say how many quantity they put up for pre-order. They could have put 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 or 10,000. It wasn't the full production run because I got my Best Buy one. Like, so there's always this jaded kind of feeling like, well, it's sold out. You know, classified stuff sells out. Oh, it sells out on pre-order. Yeah, but you don't know how many they are putting up. It's a skewed response. It's not like a Kickstarter where you're pledging, you're seeing the amount being pledged, like the HasLabs. It's like you're seeing the amount of units they make. That his tank was what, like, I don't know, 40, 50,000 or 20,000. It was a lot. But it's like, you see all the units being made. Yeah, they could be creating FOMO by putting up a pre-order that sells out because they're not putting all of it up. And That's just the nature of it. They won't tell you the numbers. We don't know the numbers, but we know Amazon got some, Best Buy got some, other people got some. So it's not selling out. Like, it's just how much are they putting up at one time. Now we've seen stuff sell out on Pulse that ended up coming back a few months later. So again, is it really sold out? I don't know. But there was, Marvel Legends is one of the most produced lines. It's got the biggest fan base, maybe next to Black Series, but you're going to be producing a lot of these. So there's going to be a lot of people buying them, but again, there was a lot of people I think that didn't buy this because it was like, I have a lot of Spider-Man figures. Why do I need to spend $50 to get maybe a few parts that I would like, but I'm covered with all my other figures? $50 is a lot. Now, I brought this guy out because Marvel Legends are $24.99 now. However, with the tariff fears, we did see that the black costume Spider-Man from Spider-Man 3 was up for pre-order for $30. That could be a new tariff price, but I'm going to say Marvel Legends are $24.99 because they were $24.99 when this guy came out, and this is one of the most recent ones. So this guy, he had an extra set of hands and an extra head. But again, this is Wolverine, so they want the A-lister, the one that's going to move the most, to come with the most. But we'll go with the standard of $25 for this figure. So here's your figure. I will give him one extra head, just like Wolverine, and I will give him another set of hands, like Wolverine. So this is your $25 offering. That matches this $25 offering. I'm sure people are going to nitpick. It's not the same as Silver Ball, but listen, he's got a ton of decoed web lines. He's got a ton of deco, or he's got the claws. Like, look, it's very, very close because of the amount of deco and, just looking at this Wolverine. Yeah, he's got a lot of deco too. But listen, to tampo web lines is a lot. It's a huge added cost because it's not just like one print. It's like when you're doing his shoulder, you got to print here, then here, then here. You got to remember the tampo does a flat surface. So if it can only get that, then it has to get that, then it has to get that. So you're saying the shoulder probably has 3 tampo hits as it is. That's a lot, man. And you're saying you go all the way around the calf. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. It's probably closer to 5. It's 4 to 5 on the calf alone. So I could spend another 20 minutes counting up the tampo hits, but it's a lot. It's absolutely a lot. But this is a very similar offering to make my point. So this right here is $25, this Spider-Man figure. So now you're telling me, I'm going to take this Spider-Man figure away, and we're just going to focus on what's left. Got a shield, that accessory, this little stand, these two, got this bomb, we've got these web hands, we've got these. This right here is $25. Now, I'm sure people are going, no, it's not this. No, it is the same. I took out the $25 portion of it, which was the figure, an extra set of hands, and a head to match the $25 Wolverine. So what you're left with is you're telling me that this right here is $25. Now, if that's the case, what you have to start asking yourself is, if this was sold as is, in its own box, just like this, would you spend $25 on this? I know I wouldn't. I don't want to I'm making the comparison because it's my line, it's what I produce, and it's relevant. I have action figure accessory sets that have similar amounts to this that are way less. So, you know what? I'll do it here. All right. Let me get something. All right. Here's my Recon gear set. Comes with a vest. There's 2 magazines in the vest, a belt, a thigh holster with 3 grenades, a rifle, magazine, helmet, night vision goggles with a hinge, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blast effects. This is $12. So we get, let's see, 1, 2, 3. I'll count every single individual part. So there's 3 magazines and a vest, 4, 5. Oh, and a pistol, 6. 3 grenades, that's 9. The holster, 10. Rifle, 11. Magazine, 13. Night vision goggles, 14. Helmet, 15. And then 5 more of these. So that's 20 individual parts. Some are small, some are big. This is a $12 accessory set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Wait. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 parts right here. 16 individual parts. You're saying these 16 individual parts are $25. Now again, I don't have a royalty, I'm not Hasbro. However, my item is produced in way less quantities than this item. So the royalty and the quantities cancel each other out. So now we're just dealing with the white meat, which is the actual piece count. 20 pieces, 16 pieces, $12, $25. Again, there will be, I know it. I know the comments are gonna be like, it's not the same, it's totally different, you can't compare it. I'm comparing it as far as a piece count slash price value, not if you buy Action Force or Legends. I'm giving you a piece count example here. This is not worth $25. It's not. It's not at all. Maybe 15. I'd say 15 for this accessory pack. So then, you know, this maximum figure should then be $40. Now, the question is, people balked at 50, which I will say right now, this item is not worth $50. I paid $50 for it. Lots of people paid $50 for it. This is the price point. It's not a $50 item. It is 100% not a $50 item, and I just explained why. Not any bias or anything like that. I did it strictly on piece count. Piece count, and you could probably go, well, there's deco. Yeah, there's deco on this. But it's very even. It's very even. The accessories aren't worth $25. But again, listen, people want it, people buy it. If you love it, you should absolutely buy it. If you, doesn't matter, listen, I've spent ridiculous amounts of money on things I wanted that were way overpriced because I wanted it. And if you want it, you should absolutely buy it. This video is not to deter anybody from buying something. If you want it, you should buy it. You should never let a reviewer, any toy tuber, anything like that, ever sway you to not buy something. If anything, they're giving you, you know, information, and then you form your own feeling on it. When Green Lantern first came out, the reviews, you all know the reviews were terrible. And I'd heard it, but I wanted to see it. I'd read the reviews, I saw that it was getting bad reviews. I wanted to see it because I wanted to make up my own mind. And I feel like there's a lot of influence, and I think, you know, toy tubers or influencers, like they're called that for a reason because they could sway people. I don't think this should do that. It should just give you information. It's just like reading a magazine or reading a dictionary. Where's the information? It's right here. Go to Google. Here's the information. If I don't know the information, here's the information. If you're on the fence and you're saying, oh man, I really want that Spider-Man, but is it worth it? Maybe you watch a couple other review videos. Maybe people are praising this. This is totally worth $50. And then you compile all that data and then you say, all right, you know what? I'm not going to get it. Yeah, it's not. And it's like, okay, well, you could say, well, maybe my video swayed you. So I guess you can call it, say I influenced in a way. That's not Again, I'm not trying to take sales away from Hasbro. I'm not trying to cause people to not buy this. What I wanted to do was I wanted to put the information out there. I wanted to say, here's XYZ. Here are my thoughts on it. These are strictly just my thoughts. Again, if you love it, buy it. Again, it's a really great figure. It's not a $50 figure. I think if it was $40, I think they'd get some better feedback. That extra $10, I think, is just a profit grab. But you know what? It is what it is. You know, the figure's out. The figure's selling well-ish, I guess. I mean, I thought I wouldn't be able to get this figure for quite a while. I thought, you know, it was going to be like a secondary market thing where you have to overpay for it. But I got it for retail on Best Buy with no issues. So it's available. But again, they probably made a lot of this figure. It's Spider-Man. It's your A-lister, like it's most popular, you know, Marvel character. So of course he's going to be produced in the highest quantities you're going to do. It's a new offering. So it'll perform well. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe we'll see this in a year at Ollie's. I don't know. I don't know what their quantities are. I don't know if they overproduce this item. But it's a great item, not a great price.